Do you always feel like you're faking it as a leader? Or maybe you know a leader that does a terrible job, but you just can't pinpoint what they're doing wrong? Well, whatever your situation, there's actually a pretty easy Harvard back solution out of it. You see, everyone used to think that leaders had to be everything to everyone, responsible for the complete command and control of everything in their business. But that belief in the infallible leader is, well, fallible. Being an incomplete leader is universal, but being willing to admit your weakness isn't. So let's talk about distributed leadership. By adopting a model of distributed leadership, even incomplete leaders like you and I can be tremendously successful. But the first step of distributed leadership is difficult for a certain type of person, the one that thinks they're always perfect. I've known that leader in my career, and I bet you have too. But you and I know better than that. So, how does admitting our weaknesses help? Sometimes a quote is better than a definition. Their job isn't to be the smartest people in the room who have all the answers, but rather to architect the game board where as many people as possible have permission to contribute the best of their expertise, their knowledge, their skills, and their ideas, said Kate Isaacs. And there's a framework, of course, there's a framework for thinking about leadership capabilities that are important to, actually leading. These four capabilities are sense making, relating, visioning, and inventing. So let's look at them individually to really understand how they can help us. Never follow someone who they themselves is lost. You'd never follow a leader who seemed lost, so you better never seem that way yourself. When it comes to being an enabling leader, the first and most important thing you must do is know where you are and be able to help create a compelling vision of it to your peers. If times are bad, you've got to be the one to understand how you got in that pit, where the traps are, and how to get out of it. If you're new to leadership in general, or a new leader, establishing your context of those situations is your most important job. What are the power dynamics? What are the existing theories of control? Have they always been that way, or have they changed over time? When? Those and many other factors will help you map a diagram of the way things are, both for your benefit and to ensure others can see it too. The most important thing to remember when building out your sense making is not simply to apply what you think you know already to a new situation, and to avoid stereotyping situations and people based on anecdotal or past experiences. Be a scientist, not a scriptwriter. A scout, not a soldier. For example, when I went from working at a Fortune 100 financial institution with more than 35,000 employees to a family owned yet still global business with less than 5,000, I had to rebuild not only my sense of the products and market, but also how strategy and operations are even managed. If you really want to dig into this topic, I recommend the book How to Make Sense of Any Mess by Abby Covert, or you can check out the video linked in the description below. Sense making is necessary for any leader to be taken seriously. Those who fake it are always found out and forced to flee. Being able to explain your interpretation of the situation in its simplest terms will win you trust and respect from your peers and your employees. But sense making on its own isn't enough. It's almost impossible to be a great sense maker on your own. Which is why talking about the distributed model of leadership is important here. Your leadership potential is determined by how well you measure up across each of the distributed skills. In order to be a great sense maker, you have to be able to relate to others within your organization, to inquire and confirm and share your sense making interpretation. And that's convenient because relating is the second capability. Bad news, introverts, but being a leader stretches your comfort zone to the max. And that's because relating to others requires spending time with others. And in a distributed leadership framework, relating is maybe the most critical of all the leadership capabilities. Assuming you aren't the only person in your organization, you're going to have to work with others in a variety of capacities, which is different from the way that people thought about old leadership. In the old days of command and control style management, leaders just made decisions. I think, therefore you act. Nowadays, leaders need to be excellent at interpersonal inquiry and deep listening, advocating for their own ideas, and exposing the differences between theirs and others without judgment. It also requires connecting with a tight group of trustworthy peers who can help you with critical decisions. Even the best leader stories and biographies are filled with the noble and heroic leader in the story being surrounded by people whom they trust to ask questions and those that push back on ideas. If I ask, "Where are yours?" and you don't have an answer, that's a problem. I've always had a mentor and close friends built from years in different educational and work settings, so I'm not scared to bring them difficult questions. But again, when I moved from insurance to manufacturing, I had to build relationships with a new group of people to help me in that arena. And as an introvert, the hardest part of building my new council of peers was putting in the time to make them friends first, so that we could be business benefactors later. A book I can recommend here is I Hear You, The Surprisingly Simple Skill Behind Extraordinary Relationships by Michael Sorensen. That's linked below as well. So we've established that you need to be a good sense maker, assessing and communicating your current situation to others. But you should also have a group of individuals that you can trust to voice their opinions and give important feedback, especially when they're the contextual experts in those domains. That's one of the facets of distributed leadership, enabling you to be better by knowing when others know more than you. Both sense making and relating enable leaders with the information they need to be their best. But having information isn't enough to be a great leader. We're also expected to act and to command action. So, how do we do that? Well, let's explore the acting capabilities of leadership. The acting capabilities of leadership are those that actually make things happen. As you're aware, there are the kinds of people that are quick to act and drive immense change throughout an organization. Unfortunately, without sense making and relating, the quality of that change can be questionable. But assuming you're strong in those leadership capabilities, what acting capabilities are important? The first step in taking action as a leader is deciding what that action should be, and that action should be constructed based on the work you've done visioning. Visioning's sort of like adding a layer to your sense-making map that charts your next path. But don't be scared. It's not about creating a detailed multi-step project plan for delivering. It's just about getting people to buy in to the vision that you've set. Getting better at creating and sharing a vision is very important if you're new to doing it professionally, but don't worry, you can get practice doing this in all realms of life. Just make sure you have a clear sense of where you are and who's with you. Then consider what a better position would be and what it might take to get there and what it might take to get others there with you. See what buy-in you can get. Don't expect everyone to have the same passion for your idea as you, but explain why they should care and what it will mean collectively and individually. Use lots of metaphors and stories because they're the key components of sharing your vision. Sharing what inspires you can go a long way to getting others to get excited too. A lot of my visioning uses my awareness of what's possible with technology. I and many others spend a lot of time learning about various technologies and mapping them against the tools that already exist within our MarTech stack. Understanding those gaps helps me cast a years-long vision of what capabilities could look like with alternative tools versus process changes alone. No company is going to jump straight into a large investment with a giant SaaS contract. So some visioning takes years to come to fruition. Years of selling the idea and the value for your area and for others and for the organization at large. Being able to construct and share a vision that inspires is arguably the most important responsibility for a leader. Very rarely in today's business climate are leaders expected to merely manage the monotony of the minute-to-minute meddling of their minions. Leaders, managers, official and unofficial, are all expected to make positive change across the people, processes, and technologies in use. But change only happens when someone brings their vision to life, which is a different leadership capability entirely, one we like to call inventing. If you've had a leader that's always had big, great ideas, but no ambition or ability to actually make them happen, then you've experienced someone who's struggled in the leadership capability of invention. Leaders have to have a vision for where they're going, and gaining buy-in from others is critical to making it reality. But buy-in alone isn't enough. It takes a level of planning and invention to make that big business-changing idea come to life. Invention makes what would be napkin scribbles into genuine life-improving product. New ideas take creative approaches to deliver, beyond just plotting step-by-step delivery. Every new idea takes some level of disciplined inventiveness, big or small. But being good at inventing requires high-level change management skills, and change management takes a lot of time and effort to get right. And constant change creates a level of stress that can impact others' willingness to buy into the next vision and the next. If you've read The Six Working Geniuses by Patrick Lencioni, these capabilities might sound familiar. In that framework, the Git of Widget are acting-based geniuses, galvanizing, enablement, tenacity. My top two working geniuses are invention and discernment, nowhere near the acting geniuses. In fact, tenacity is the hardest genius for me to force myself to do, which is why in the distributed leadership space, I try to partner with individuals who are strong in that genius. I know by partnering up, we have a much higher chance of success. It's important to know who's great at project management, change management, communications, and who's capable of prodding others along when the project starts to drag. Inventing is critical to being seen as a leader who gets stuff done, which is one of the most important measures of leadership. But a leader who doesn't have a clear grasp of their situation, who struggles relating to others, and who lacks vision for what to do next will have nothing to invent. Understanding these capabilities and working with others to bring them to life will help you be a more complete, more successful, and more impactful leader and a linchpin of your organization. So, in distributed leadership, no one person reigns supreme. It's only through understanding and thereby developing and supporting these four leadership capabilities, sense making, relating, visioning, and inventing, can a person and the organization they work within start to really optimize for modern strategic management. The reality of it is that almost everything has grown to a level of complexity that no one individual neither can nor should be responsible for all on their own. It's just too much. Strategic factors like political, environmental, societal, and technological impacts adjust, morph, and converge, and diverge more rapidly than ever before. Having a team of individuals where each is enabled and expected to excel on their own and collectively makes for more effective management and almost always yields better growth both financially and developmentally. So, to get better at these skills, I recommend reflecting on the case study from Harvard Business Review that originated these ideas, as well as a couple other articles from MIT Sloan that give some more supporting details. Everything I've mentioned throughout the video is linked for easy access below. So, be good to yourself, be good to others, and we'll see you next time.